Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about the book Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. So Clockwork Angel is the first book in the Infernal Devices series. This is a Shadowhunter series and it takes place before Clare and the Mortal Instruments. So this takes place in London 1878 and Tessa has just come to London. And then there's Jim, and there's Will and Charlotte. This is a really good first book. I really liked it. Can't wait to read the other books in this companion series to the Mortal Instruments. And this cover is very pretty too. I really like the cover for this book. So there's 3 books. There's also Clockwork Prince and Clockwork Princess. And if you want to see my video for the first 3 Mortal Instruments books, City of Bones, City of Ashes, and City of Glass, click the eye up here. And if you haven't read this book yet, I'm going to talk about it, so you should probably leave now if you don't want to get spoiled for it. So if you haven't read the book, bye. Okay, so this starts out with Tessa. She comes to London for her brother, who sent her a ticket after her aunt had died. She goes to see him, and at the place, she gets picked up by the Dark Sisters, who say that her brother has told her to come and get her. So they get taken. She gets taken there, and then they start trying to teach her how to do change, which is her thing. She can turn into people. And then she reaches into their minds and can use the voice to talk and access their memories. And after 6 weeks of that, they start talking about the Magister and how she's ready for him. And then she gets how that she's going to be able to do the great honor that's going to be bestowed upon her and everything like that. And then she, after being there for 6 weeks, she actually manages to escape. She's under the impression that Nate has been captured by these people. Her brother, Nathaniel, has been captured by these people, and she is trying to do all they say so that he wouldn't get hurt. So she eventually escapes one day, and then she runs into the coach driver, who just brings her right back inside. And they want to get her ready for the Magister when Will comes in and manages to save her. They run all the way down into this room, and they're getting chased by the Dark Sisters, and then the other Shadowhunters come, and they find a room where there's bodies all in it, and blood and stuff, and they hide from the Dark Sisters in there, who manage to get in. So they start fighting with other Shadowhunters who came, and they manage to kill one of the Dark Sisters. Mrs. Black ends up being killed, and Mrs. Dark, her sister, is still alive. They managed to get Tessa out of the Dark Sister's grasp, thankfully. And then she gets to the Institute. She gets to stay there with Will and Jim, who she meets because she hears him playing his violin. She goes to see who it is and finds him in his room. And then he, at the end of the time, he gets sick, and she's told to leave by Will, which she does. So, at the Institute, she goes shopping with Jessamy, the other girl, the girl has Shadowhunter in the house. And they end up going to the park, where they're walking, and Jessamy is telling her how she wants to get away from the Shadowhunter world, and she wants Tessa to come with her. And they end up running into a monster who Jessamy kills with her parasol, which is actually a weapon, which is a really cool way to hide a weapon, in my opinion at least. So that's honestly a pretty cool weapon because it's hidden in a parasol. And then they go back to the Institute, and Charlotte and Henry go talk to Mr. Mortmain, who was Nate's employer, because they're trying to find him for her. And he tells them he knows they're Shadowhunters, And he tells them that about De Quincy and the fact that he's the Magister and everything. And so they start trying to plan an attack on him. They manage to contact Camille Belcourt, who gives her something so she could change into her. And she agrees, because their plan is to have her change into Camille and go with Will, because he had been seen when he was undercover trying to figure out about the Dark Sisters. Seen he's undercover so he could be seen as a human. It's like the servant of a vampire. They can just drink blood out of if they want to. And so she agrees to the plan, and she eventually she starts practicing changing into Camille so she'd be able to do it. She's not changed, but she hasn't been able to grasp Camille's mind yet. And so she ends up they're in the library one day, and then the Enclave, which is the London Shadowhunters people, they are having a meeting, so they have to end up leaving. And then Gabriel Lightwood, who is kind of like the enemy of Will, he comes in and he starts arguing with him, and he's telling them that he's a horrible person. He's talking about Jim's illness, which is what makes him kind of weak. And Tezzy gets mad and ends up screaming and ends up yelling at him. And then his dad comes out, Benedict Lightwood comes out and is asks him if he wants to stay with it, if he wants to join the meeting or if he wants to stay with the little kids. Even though Gabriel's only older, but he acts like he's really important, and they're not. So after that, they go listen to the meeting, and the meeting is about the plan that they're going to go through. And then they go to De Quincy's house with Magnus. They meet Magnus Bane there too, and he's going to help them find where they need to be. And at the party, which is where they're going to see, because if they have to find De Quincy hurting a human for him to be able to be attacked. So they go to see that. And they run into De Quincy, who wants to drink some of Will's blood, but Tessa manages not to have him do that. And then they go into the library where they find a map of an autumn town, which is like a clockwork creature that can be used to fight against them, which is why some of the servants at the Dark Sisters' houses were. So they find that, and then they go down and see what's happening. And the person, they take out, they see the person cutting. De Quincy cuts the person sitting in the chair they're going to do the ceremony thing on, where they drink his blood, and then Tessa's telling Will to call the people now, and Will tells her to leave, and so she goes out the door, and then she sees that it's Nate, and so she doesn't want to leave. And the phosphor that they use to summon the cloud ends up lighting in places on fire and everything, and so that happens. And then the other Shadowhunters come and they end up fighting, and Tessa goes to try to get her brother, who is stuck on the chair. And De Quincy is saying how she's a traitor and everything, and then Will comes over and starts fighting De Quincy, and he bites him, and he's like, "How do you like it?" And so after they eventually, De Quincy escapes, but they kill most of the other vampires, and they get Nate and they can leave. Will has to go drink holy water and stuff so that he won't turn into a vampire, or he won't have the urging and go and make a bit and turn into a vampire. And he's doing that, and then Tessa comes down over and sees Sophie come down the stairs, and she's mad because Will threw a bucket at her of the medicine he's supposed to take, his holy water. And Sophie's really mad at Will, and so Tessa decides that she would go and do it. So she goes up there, and he tells Will to take his medicine, and he takes it, and then they kind of share a moment where they talk, and they end up kissing, and Will like pushes her away, and so she leaves him alone, like he wants. And Nate, he had a spell put on him, so that he would be calm when the vampires were doing it. And so the Silent Brothers come and try to help him, and then they want to question him about it. Eventually, he ends up waking up and being fine. And he tells them that DeQuincy was the Magister and that he was working for him. And he was wanting to make the Clockwork creatures, and he was wanting to bind demon energies in them so that they would be able to run on their own. They had seen some of the, and then eventually he tells them all that, and that he wanted Tessa, a gambling thing, and that he lost so much money, and that he wanted Tessa as the price for it, and that he had agreed. And before that, though, Tessa was walking with Jim on a bridge, and some of the Clockwork things had come and started fighting them, and they had managed to defeat the first two. Then a bunch started chasing them at the Institute, and Jim had fallen down, and he had, because if he didn't have enough of his medicine, and he had been bleeding, like blood was coming out of his mouth, and he fell down the stairs, and Tessa just couldn't get into the Institute. She rang the bell, and then eventually Charlotte and Henry and Thomas and Will had come down to save the Clockwork creatures, and Will and Thomas got Jim back inside, and then Tessa was going to see if he was all right. Will said that Jim wanted to talk to Tessa, so she went up there, and Jim told Tessa about how in Shanghai a demon had captured him and his parents, and had used to put demon stuff in him, and had tortured him for 2 days. And then when he came back, they realized that his body could not function without it. He had become dependent on it. So if he didn't have any of it, he would die. So he had to take it, and if he was about to fight, he had to take more of it. And he was saying that slow death is better, and that it would eventually kill him, most likely, because they could not find a cure for it. He had to take it. And Tessa felt really bad for everything. Then back at a later time, Charlotte and Henry found out where DeQuincy was from Nate, and they had decided to go with the other Cloud members that were older than 18 to go fight him. So they had left, and Will and Jim and Jessamine had to stay with Tessa and Sophie and Agatha and Thomas. And then Mortmain had come later after they had left and told Will and Jim that they have been binding demon spirits in the place where it was happening. Will and Jim hurried off and found at the place Mrs. Dark, who was trying to bring back her sister from the dead. And they were talking about the Magister and saying they found him. And she's like, "You found the Magister?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're going to go get DeQuincy." And she's just laughing, and she's like, "He's not the Magister." And they go to fight her, and she runs off. And they go down to where she had ran. They find a stone demon and a pentagram, and a cat who Jim takes a liking to. And then she comes out, and then she starts talking to them, and she figures out it's Mrs. Dark and the truth for him, and that she was like Tessa and what she could change, but she's not exactly like Tessa in that way. She couldn't change exactly the same thing. She couldn't reach their minds. And her sister was a warlock, and she was trying to bring her back to life. And then Will threw his blade at the pentagram, although he couldn't break through it. But eventually, the room started filling up with fire or smoke or something. And Will threw, and Jim was like, "You have to kill her for this to stop." And so he threw his blade and went down the chandelier that killed her, and it stopped. They took the cat, And with the knowledge, Will raced home on just one of the horses, and Jim got in the carriage. And back at the Institute, one of the Clockwork creatures had managed to open the door, because they were waiting inside the little entry hall, and came into the Institute where Tessa, Sophie, and Agatha were waiting in the entrance hall. And he killed Agatha, and Sophie was in a state of shock, and then he just left. Just a little while later, the door opened again, and Mortmain was there with the Clockwork creatures. So they had figured out that he was actually the Magister. And Will and Jim had figured it out too, because he had told them to go there. And so they had to come back home. But anyways, they had been racing back home. So the Clockwork creatures started fighting, and Thomas came down and he started fighting with them. And Jessamine had come down too, and Nate. But Nate had gone and joined them and said that Tessa really wasn't his sister, and that was his master. And the fighting had started with the Clockwork creatures. And Thomas had told Tessa to take Sophie and go to the sanctuary. So they ran off to the sanctuary. And they made it to the door, but then Sophie realized she didn't get the key. And so she ran back off, and Nate came. And he had talked to Tessa about all that actually happened. And saying, that she wasn't really his sister. And that he had found... that he had gone to Mortmain, figured out that he wasn't the person who was looking for him, which was Tessa he was looking for, and said that they should come with him. And she had been talking on for a long time about all the stuff that was happening and everything that had happened. And then he goes, and Jessamine comes out behind him and hits him in the head with a lamp, because she had been knocked out earlier, and they had just laughed, and she was really mad at him because he had lied to her, and she had actually liked him. So he came back, and they went into the sanctuary, and then Will's voice was coming through, and he was saying that the Clockwork creatures were dead, and that they had been fighting and everything. And then so they opened the door, because it was Will's, and right before, Sophie's like, don't open the door, but Jessamine had just opened it, and Mortmain was there with 4 Clockwork creatures and Nate. So they started talking, and she told the Clockwork creatures told Sophie and Jessamine to leave, and he wanted Tessa alone, and he told Nate to go get the demon energy box thing from the weapons room. So he left with a Clockwork creature. And then they had said they wouldn't leave, and so he sent the Clockwork creatures out to kill them. And then Tessa was like, stop, I won't run away. She's like, stop, don't hurt them. He's like, do you promise you won't run away? And she's like, yes. So he stopped hurting them and had them just dragged out. And he started talking to Tessa about how he had made her, and that a demon was like her father. Her mother didn't know what she was, that he didn't know. She was cheating on her father, or on her husband. And she was saying that she had got the sword, and she was saying that she would rather kill herself. She was going to kill herself if he hurt her friends. And he's like, no, you won't. She's like, yes, I will. Eventually, she got a vote of confidence and knew from something Will had said about Helena Tron, whatever it was, that she had taken poison rather than be captured. And so she stabbed herself in front of him, and he was standing over her. And Will had finally reached the Institute, so he came and saw Thomas's body, and he was laying down on the floor. So he was saying the words over the Shadowhunt's body that you say. He's like, not a Shadowhunter. So he said something else, and then he had been left. And he went up the stairs because Thomas had told him where Tessa was. So he went to the sanctuary, and he found Tessa there, covered in blood. And then Jim had reached Sanctuary, or the Institute. Jim had reached the Institute, and he saw coming out Nate, the Clockwork creature with the box, and a couple more Clockwork creatures holding Sophie and Jessamine, and figured out that he was lying and everything. And then he started fighting the Clockwork creatures, and Henry and Charlotte got there, and so they managed to get the Clockwork creatures, but Nate and the Clockwork creature with the box had run off. And Will, up with Tessa, had seen that she was dying because there was a bunch of blood coming out. And then Mortmain had been mad at all he lost, and so he had literally just disappeared and vanished. And he had said over Tessa, and he was thinking that he had lost everything. When she spoke to him, she started telling him how it wasn't actually her blood and she wasn't dying, and that she had changed into the girl she had changed into earlier, who was bleeding, so it looked like she was dead and she didn't actually stab herself. And Will started being and they had managed to do that. And after that, they had the funeral for all the shadow hunters that had died. And afterwards, Charlotte came up and told Tessa that she could stay at the Institute. She ran it if she wanted to, and she said she went up to tell Will, expecting him to be really happy, but he was kind of being rude. He was saying that it's like we had to make arrangements and that we should use your room and not mine, and that they couldn't get married and that warlocks couldn't have children. And so Tessa went and kind of hid in the music room, where she read in the codex that it was true what he was saying, that they couldn't have children. And she managed to, Jim found her and was talking to her. The cat had come in, and he said the cat's name was Church, which I found, like the Church in Mortal Instruments. That cat is the same cat in this one as in this one. And then Will's last name is Herondale, so he's somehow related to Jace, which is also awesome. But anyways, they had kind of a talk, and then Will, at the end, he went over to Magnus and said he needed to ask him something. So I really liked the series so far, and the fact that, because in the book it was like he was described like just as Jason. I was like, who's that reminder? I was like, Jason. I was like, he's just like Jason. I was like, wait a minute, Jace's actual last name is Herondale, because his father, Stephen Herondale. So I was like, he's just like Jace though, but he is Jace. Or Will is Jace is the descendant of Will, so that's cool. But and then Church, the cat, is the same one in this one as in the Mortal Instruments. I like how they kind of played together. And the Pandemonium Club is the organization that they were trying to stop in this, which is really cool. But anyways, I really like this book, and I can't wait to read the other two, see how this series is gonna go. So I really like the whole Shadowhunters thing. It's a really good series. Make sure to comment your opinions down below, and like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.